and welcome to the Diabetes Podcast. I'm Richie.
And I'm Amber.
And Amber, I'm very excited. Today is a great day. Do you know why?
Because every day is a great day?
Every day, that's a true statement. Every day is a great day. But this day is not just our first full-length podcast ever. Not just the first in a 12-part series that we're calling Anything Meds Can Do, You Can Do Better, where we talk about the 12 core defects in type 2 diabetes. But we are coming out hard. Today, we're going to talk at length about decreased incretin effect. And if you're like me and didn't know what that was 30 minutes ago, what we're talking about is GLP-1 and GIP medications. If you don't know what those are, we're talking about, these are your Ozempics, your Mounjaros, and your Wegovys. We're going to talk about the drugs used to treat decreased incretin effect. We're going to talk about the history of those drugs. We're going to talk about what those drugs are doing in my body. We're going to talk about some of the side effects of these drugs and then what actions I can do to increase the incretin effect in my body without medication. Mm-hmm. So Amber, tell me about the incretin effect and what drugs are used to treat decreased incretin effect.
That's a great question because I think you really have to understand what the incretin effect is to understand this class of medications.
Please tell me because I don't know.
Okay. I don't think you would be the only one that didn't know. When you eat food, especially carbohydrate-containing food, your blood sugar starts to rise. And your body is so incredibly intelligent. It has a system to keep that sugar from going too high. And that is where the incretin effect comes in. When food travels through your digestive tract, your gut releases these hormones, GLP-1 and GIP. And they tell your pancreas, hey, food's coming. Get ready to make insulin. And as a result, your pancreas produces more insulin faster and more efficiently, helping to control your blood sugar before it gets out of hand. But here's the really wild part. If you eat sugar through your mouth, your body produces more insulin than that same sugar through an intravenous route, like through the veins. And they know this from hospital studies where people would be given IV glucose. And it's all because those gut hormones are involved. So that's the incretin effect. Your gut hormones helping your pancreas respond better to food.
Okay. That was a lot.
Yeah, and I must add, I think in people who have type 2, the core defect is that the incretin effect is weaker or missing. Like your body either doesn't make enough GLP-1 and GIP or it doesn't respond to them well. So that means your pancreas is slower or less efficient at making insulin after meals, which is one reason why you get higher blood sugar spikes after meals in people who have type 2 diabetes.
Okay, so if I have type 2 diabetes, I can take a GLP-1 to help my body to increase the incretin effect because just the nature of the disease is depressing. Is that right?
You did well.
I did.
Yeah, you did good.
All right. Can you speak to why GLP-1s are, particularly Ozempic, is getting so much attention right now?
Yes.
Because what I see, and again, I guess for my age and gender and socioeconomic whatever, I am really aggressively being marketed these GLP-1s. And I don't think it's because I have type 2 diabetes, because I don't. So why is this class of drugs that is used in people with type 2 diabetes, why is this being so aggressively marketed right now?
Yeah, that's a great question. And it is pretty unprecedented as to why this is happening. So this is an FDA-approved marketed drug, the Ozempics, the Mounjaros of the world. And they had a supply chain shortage. So people who had type 2 were not able to get this medication. And what that creates is something called a 503A exemption, where compounding pharmacies can produce these in the setting of a shortage. And the problem with this is that they really vary in purity and potency, and they're not the FDA approved versions. They're often salts or analogs from China.
Okay. Why now?
Yeah. Well, there's a profit to be made.
Okay.
If you have a blockbuster drug like Ozempic or Mounjaro, and all of a sudden people can't get it, if you are one of these compounding pharmacies, this is a huge opportunity for profit. And you compound that availability with social media, TikTok influencers, celebrities using this, and it's very appealing to people. Anything that promises quick weight loss is going to be appealing to people.
Okay. So really it's more weight loss focused. Is that correct?
Yeah, in the non-diabetes population, it's more weight loss and hunger and satiety focused, meaning people can feel more full, more satiated, like appetite reduction. And that's really the appeal there. But the benefits with type 2 diabetes are better blood sugar control, plus the appetite and reduction with weight loss with the others, and potential preservation of the pancreatic beta cells, which are the insulin-producing cells at the pancreas.
Okay. What are these medications doing in my body? Specifically, what's happening in my body?
In your body, these medications are doing several things. They're working on hunger and satiety cues, so they are affecting ghrelin and leptin in the brain. They are secreted from the L cells of the gut and delay gastric emptying.
What's gastric emptying?
That's the release of food from your stomach into the small intestine to the large intestine. So it's that whole tract from food inside the mouth down the digestive tract and out. It delays all of that. The idea being that if food empties the stomach less rapidly, the post-meal glucose spikes are not as great. And post-meal glucose spikes are really tied to a lot of the bad effects, the long-term side effects that can be linked to type 2 diabetes. Very much tied to post-meal hyperglycemia or high blood sugars after the meal.
But if I understood correctly, the big thing is that the GLP-1s are slowing down digestion. Is that right?
In effect, yes. And they're also signaling for the pancreas to release more insulin, but only in the presence of food, carbohydrate food. For that reason, it can be really safe for somebody who doesn't have type 2 diabetes. You, of course, would not give insulin to somebody who wasn't insulin requiring. That could be deadly to someone. However, somebody without diabetes could take this GLP-1 medication and not really have a low blood sugar side effect too much because it just doesn't work that way. It's glucose dependent release of the insulin.
What are some of the side effects of the GLP-1s and the GIPs?
The biggest ones, and this is kind of true across the board with your diabetes meds, but much more so with this group, would be nausea, vomiting, diarrhea, mostly nausea, vomiting, because it's delaying gastric emptying. Anytime you're delaying gastric emptying, you could feel more nauseous if that food's just sitting in your stomach, not emptying out into the small intestine. And you could vomit if that food is really backed up and you feel nauseous. It could create vomiting. It could create dehydration. And there's been some acute kidney injury due to dehydration. It's definitely not recommended if you're going to go under anesthesia. There was actually a very sad case of a woman on this medication whose stool was backed up when under anesthesia, and she had aspiration pneumonia while under, and that caused her passing.
Just so I understand, lady went under anesthesia and stuff in the lower and small intestine backed up so much that it started getting into her esophagus and ultimately spilling into her lungs.
Yeah, so if you've been on this medication for some time and it's slowing everything down, she might not have had appropriate elimination of all of that. And so it builds up and builds up and builds up. Where's it going to go? If not out through normal bowel elimination. And so it backs up, and it could back up into the esophagus and then go down the trachea and create choking or pneumonia in this case.
Wow, that's incredibly gross.
It's incredible.
Okay.
It's sad.
So what actions can I do to increase the incretin effect? When are these drugs most successful? And is there a path to I get on the GLP-1s or the GIPs and to me coming off these drugs? Or am I going to have to maintain this medication forever to see the kind of effects that they're producing?
Yeah, they could cause people to downregulate their natural GLP-1 production, meaning your body might make a set amount and then you take this med and so it's like, oh, we have enough, so it downregulates your ability to produce it naturally. If you go off of it, that could cause problems. There's a possibility if it downregulates and you make less of it on your own, then when you come off the medicine, you would be making less of it on your own. Hopefully you would then begin to upregulate it again, but that's these metabolic adaptations. These can happen in ways that we don't fully understand because this drug has not been studied in a non-type 2 population. So it really is newer that it's been available to people without type 2. And furthermore, it is shown that when people come off of this medicine, they have rebound weight gain. They could have worse hunger. And a lot of the rebound weight gain could come from a loss of muscle mass while on the medication. If you're less hungry, you're getting less calories, and you may or may not be eating enough calories and protein to support the muscle and bone mass that you already have. And if you lose muscle and bone mass, you're worse off in the end because your muscle and bone mass are your really highly metabolically active tissue, which promotes weight loss while you're sitting and resting and any other time. It promotes the uptake of insulin. It improves insulin resistance.
What are the actions that I can do right now to increase the incretin effect in my body without medication?
Is it okay if we cover the cost of these medicines before we go?
We can cover whatever you want.
Well, I think while we're on this idea of the medicines and side effects, it's important to talk about all the cost. If you have type 2, typically insurance will cover this medication, and the copay is usually $25 to $200 a month. So diabetes is expensive. We've maintained that. And the list price of this drug, like the over-the-counter price, would be around $1,000 a month. We're talking like $950 to $1,350 a month. And that's also a huge reason to speak to your question before about why is it so popular. With that 503A exemption, people are able to get it for a fraction of that, like $300 or $400 a month, or they sign up for this yearly contract and then they pay maybe $270. But in total, it's usually about $4,500 a year. And for somebody to lose 20 pounds, that promise of that stubborn weight you've always tried to get off, people would pay anything for that sometimes because society has done a great job, and by great, I mean yuck, a great job of making people feel inadequate about their weight. And obesity is a huge epidemic in our nation and other places, any developing nation. And they're just, in my opinion, preying on that piece of the psyche.
Okay.
Which is sad. So going to your question, what you'd asked about how the goal is anything meds can do, your body can do better. So this is how foods that can boost your body's natural production of GLP-1 would be fermented foods, kimchi, kombucha, things like that. High fiber foods. Yeah.
Would sauerkraut be something?
It would.
Okay.
Yes. Very proud of you. High fiber foods, your whole grains, whole wheat, those things, resistant starches, protein, healthier fats, your omega-3s, your unsaturated, monounsaturated fats, and lifestyle habits. Are you getting enough movement, exercise? Are you sleeping well? Are you managing your stress? Foods that are high in antioxidants, foods that lower inflammation and improve fat cell metabolism. Those and weight loss can restore insulin sensitivity.
All right. If you can kind of tie a ribbon on it, what would you say to someone who is in conversations with their physician about getting started on a GLP-1?
Well, I would say first and foremost, be prepared to spend $25 to $200 a month if you have that diabetes diagnosis. If you have a pre-diabetes diagnosis, there's a very good chance that your insurance is not going to cover this medication, and consider yourself fortunate if they do. And then for weight loss, let's say you have prediabetes and you meet the category for obesity, which may cover this in that setting. There are just different settings that it may cover and may not, and your physician might have to do a prior authorization and other things like that to get it covered. But typically that's the range where if you had to pay out of pocket, it would be more, which again is why the compounding pharmacies are appealing. But I would say these meds can be very helpful when you have deficiencies there. But the goal in what people really want is to be off of meds and managing their blood sugars without medication. So these meds are used as a leg up to give you a boost, to help you out as you do the things that can improve your body's own production of glucagon, like peptide 1 receptor agonist, or glucose-dependent insulinotropic polypeptide. So as you're trying to build up your body's own way to combat insulin resistance and hunger and satiety levels and all of that, these can be great in the interim. I think where things kind of get lost in the sauce is no one expects to be on these forever. And unless you're going to be doing something through nutrition and lifestyle and exercise, plan on being on these meds forever.
Oh, wow.
That's really the bottom line.
Okay. So if I can summarize.
Mm-hmm. You're good at this.
Yeah. The medication is not designed to fix your situation. The medication is designed to keep you on the medication. All of the research and all of the marketing and all this other kind of stuff is really not, let me give you a product that's going to fix your problem. It's let me give you a product that's going to make it better as long as you take it.
Yes. And I do want to responsibly add to that there have been some cardiovascular benefits shown with the GLP-1 receptor agonist, and also some renoprotective benefits and potentially preserving beta cell function. All of this also can be done through diet and exercise. But in the meantime, it's important to control the deficiencies. Whether that's through diet and exercise or whether it's through meds, you've got to attack diabetes hard and fast and control everything in the beginning. And then you can implement the nutrition, diet, exercise strategies and come off of the medications. That's what we do, or what we help people do.
Great. Okay. I think that's way more about decreased incretin effect than even I was prepared for, but that's a lot.
It's a lot.
Yeah, it is a lot. So at this point, I would say...
But inquiring minds want to know.
And speaking of inquiring minds, if you have any questions, please leave those in the comments section, and we will do our very best to respond to those questions. We would love for this to be a place where you have just unprecedented access to a subject matter expert in diabetes care. So if you've got the questions, specifically about what we talked about today or just questions in general, please leave those in the comment section and we will do our very best to address those questions. Additionally, if you can like and subscribe to the channel, that really helps. Our goal is to help as many people with this disease as possible. And the more likes and the more subscriptions, the easier it is to do that at no cost to you.
Yes. And one thing I didn't mention is we really are talking about the 12 core defects. So we talked about one of the 12 core defects that occur in type 2 diabetes, very specifically. Unless, there are some occasions in which people who have type 1 diabetes then develop type 2 diabetes on top of type 1, and then we may be speaking to that. For the most part, though, this is type 2 diabetes. Type 1 is insulin deficiency because of an autoimmune condition. So I just wanted to clarify that there.
Very good. And then speaking again to what you just said, this is only part 1 in a 12-part series. Today we talked about decreased incretin effect. Next time, we'll be talking about renal glucose reabsorption, another thing that I don't know anything about.
Yes.
So for those of you that also don't know anything about renal glucose reabsorption, we're going to be talking about Farxiga. We're going to be talking about
Farxiga, not Farxiga.
It's got an X in there.
Farxiga.
Farxiga.
Not Farxiga.
We're going to be talking about...
Sorry.
It's fine. It's fine. We're going to be talking about Farxiga. We're going to be talking about Giardiance, and we're going to be talking about Invokana.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. And how you can also do some of the same things on your own.
Yes. The format, I think, is going to be the same for all of these 12.
Yeah.
Okay. This was fun.
I enjoyed it.
We should do this again next week.
I think we will.
All right. Again, I'm Richie.
And I'm Amber. It was so great to have you join us. We appreciate you. And we hope that this has been helpful. And again, post any questions you have in the comments and we will tackle them for sure.
Yep. And we will talk to you next time.
Bye.
Bye.